Okay, let's see. All right. Love is patient and kind. It does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love never ends.
That's my expression of love.
And never be mad.
Well,
But again, I'm Helen, so you know, that happens.
I'm sure you girls were too.
They were, I babysat them a lot.
Anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Joe. Helen, you wanna say anything?
Well, you had all the stuff written down.
You think I could have made it this far if I didn't?
Well, I started thinking about it, I actually wrote a bunch of stuff down, and then I was gonna bring it, and then I was trying to come up with what to put on the pamphlet for Dad, and I'm like, well, okay, let's describe him, and then I've got this notepad, and I turn the page, and get started on the second page, you know, that's not gonna work. So I kind of thought the same thing when I would start writing down what I want to say. I'm like, well, hold on a second, I'm Helen, when have I ever had a problem talking? It's just silliness. I'll just go with what I'm thinking. My dad, well, I've been a daddy's girl my whole life. And he's always been a big part. I mean, raising twin girls that never got along was never easy on the poor man. But he did a really good job. And he was a wonderful single dad that, you know, and made a point. My dad taught me to shave my legs. The ladies are like, well, no, he goes, no, I just have no idea. You need to tell me, and then I will teach her. But this is something I need to do. And he did that. He did all of those things with me, and then taught me to weld when I was in 4th grade. Which when we were in high school, I found out that some guys don't like that. My dad goes, it's okay. You just got to find a man that's actually manly enough for you. It's fine. Lord taught me how to work on my car and change my tire, and I remember always growing up, and I'd just be out there with him, and he'd be working on something, and I'm like, I'd ask questions. Well, now why are you doing this, Dad? You know, so I could learn what he was doing, and then I was his tool fetcher, so I'd go get me this, and so I'd go get it and come back, you know, and then after he fell and hit his head, I needed to put new brakes and change the oil on my car, on my Mustang. And I'm like, all right. And I said, well, Dad, I gotta be honest, it's been a while. I haven't done this in a while. So here's the chair. Why don't you just sit right there and you just be there to answer the question when I go, now what order do I do this in? And so we did that, and then he handed me the tools that I needed to do it. But I was doing it, you know. And it's never had a bad, he said that there was no stupid questions. It's always okay to ask, because you're never too old to learn something new. You can always learn something new. And so we did that a lot, and he was always a huge deal for me, and he was the #1 man in my life for the past 5 years. He was my priority, and everything. The strangest thing in the world was to just sit there and go, wait, I can just sleep right now? I don't have to have an alarm going off. So weird. And all the things that change now. I find things every day that are just changed, and I'm like, okay, it's a whole nother chapter. But I remember Dad he was miserable at the end, but he fell and hit his head, gosh, it was almost 20 years ago. And that was when I was staying there and helping raise Johnny. And I looked at him and I'm like, Dad, what happened? Because he'd tell me, I didn't want you to worry. I'm like, what else? I mean, you told me this. So I kind of fell off a ladder 4 weeks ago. And I'm just like, Dad, you have to tell me these things. But he just started walking so slow. And so I had to help him figure out how to readjust to that brain damage memory thing, which he would always joke about it, but I never told him. There was that one year we were supposed to go to dinner for lunch for my birthday, And he reminded me twice that it was Jennifer's birthday. He reminded me twice that morning. And so I get to work and I'm like, so, I don't need the extra long work hour today. And they're like, what if I can go to lunch with your dad? And I'm like, he forgot, but he remembered. It's Jennifer's birthday, he totally got it. They're like, these are twins, I'm so confused. I'm like, it's the brain damage, you know, it's just the memory thing. But then when I got home from work, he was just like, how was your birthday? And I'm like, so cool, thank you. You know, it didn't bother. But he would just sit there and forget those little things and stuff, and then, but he always said he had it. And then he got sick with myasthenia gravis, and took us a while to get that one figured out. And when he went in that hotel room, or into the hospital, I'm standing there with him, and I'd leave for 3-4 hours. I'd go home and shower and sleep, and I'd come back, and there was some sort of problem. I'm like, okay, I'm moving in. Here we go. Moved into the hospital room with him, and I was there with him for the next 5 years. And we did a lot of stuff together. It was our whole lives, and but he never got depressed. Not once did that man actually get depressed. I got depressed. I freaked out. I got overwhelmed. I'd break down crying. But he's just, it's okay. We got it. Well, hey, at least I'm not doing it by myself. This would really suck if I didn't have you. I'm like, okay, we got it. It's always bright moments, bright side. So, ever since he's passed, I just keep reminding myself that, you know, he was miserable with that sinus infection for that month and a half. And then those last couple of weeks, he was only out of bed for about 30 to 45 minutes at a time. And even then, he was just miserable and just would go right back and be on the ventilator. So he was not miserable anymore. Yesterday was his birthday, and he got to spend it with his parents, who have been gone for decades. So that's nice, happy on that one. But he touched a lot of people's lives, and he was always, he was a very strong man, and well, he raised me, so I did push those buttons from time or two. But he taught me what kind of man I wanted to be around, and what kind of person I wanted to be. And you always just sit there and think that he was always doing stuff for people. At one point, I finally had to say, God, Dad, enough with the crazy ladies, okay? Because he was doing the dating thing, and then it's like, oh, well, can you fix this for me? And I'm like, Dad, you're not even dating these people. Why are you doing this? So, but he was always there to help. He was always there to help anybody, and so I tried to do the same thing. He was just an amazing man. I sat there and tried to write down just the stuff that he's accomplished, and then did, and then a page and a half later, I was just like, forget it. And that's just stuff I know of from, you know, the 4 years that I knew him, but he's got a whole bunch of stuff before that. There's so many things in this town you can drive by, and I did wiring in that building, and I did this over here, and, you know, and even when his memory started going bad, he had all of that stuff. It was the newer stuff. He'd walk out of this grocery store and look for the car he drove in 1982, even though it was 2000. It's just, he never met a happier, even, he didn't have an easy life. I didn't make his life easy, at all. I was a difficult teenager, I think is the term. But he handled it. And he was always there. And then, you know, then I'm sitting there, we're talking about it as an adult, and he's like, yeah, you were a little trying. It's like, I don't know how to do it. It's a whole learning process on how to do it, what a world looks like without him. But he was a wonderful man. He was a loving father, constantly always talking great things about all three of us. And oh God, those grandkids. Got any new pictures, Helen? Got any new pictures? And his vision got so bad he couldn't see them, and I'm like, hold on. Plug my laptop in to the 60-inch screen TV in the living room. Let's look at pictures. I understood. We were all very, very blessed to have him in our lives. And I'm very thankful that you guys all showed up for this today. Thank you. And I'm gonna lose it, so I'm gonna sit down.